To really understand the technology that runs our lives, you can't start with silicon and code. No, we've got to go way, way back to the computer's most unlikely ancestor. So let me start with a question that might sound, well, a little weird. What on earth could your super powerful smartphone possibly have in common with a plain old rock? The answer is actually way more important than you think.
Because its great-great-grandfather was a stone. Seriously, think about it. Early humans used stones for counting. You know, this was humanity's very first attempt to outsource a mental process. To take a job our brains aren't great at and just hand it off to a tool. That simple act, it set us on a truly remarkable path.
Okay, so that path from the counting stone eventually led us here, to the computer. But what is a computer, really? Before we go any further, we need to nail down a simple, core definition of what this machine actually is. Forget all the complicated tech jargon for a minute. Any computer, and I mean any computer, really just does three simple things. First, it takes in some information. That's the input. Second, it uses a set of rules to do something with that information. That's the process. And third, it gives you a result, the output. That's it. Input, processed, output. It's the secret recipe. Let's make that real for a second. Let's say the input is two numbers, like 5 and 7. The process is the rule we gave it, addition, and the output, of course, is the sum, 12. Every single device, from a cheap calculator to a government supercomputer, is just running this fundamental loop over and over and over again. And this principle, it's literally everywhere. I mean, think about your coffee maker. It's a simple computer. The input, coffee beans and water. The process, a set of rules to heat that water and brew it. And the output, a perfect cup of coffee. Once you see this pattern, you start seeing these little computers all over the place. So, how did we get from that simple three-step idea to the incredibly powerful devices we have in our pockets? Well, the journey wasn't a slow, steady crawl. It happened in 4 huge, distinct leaps forward that took us from a counting stone to a brain on a chip. Okay, first up, in the 1800s, Charles Babbage dreamed up the idea of giving a machine its rules on punch cards. That was the birth of the program. Then, in the 1930s, Alan Turing had this incredible insight, a universal machine. One single machine that could pretend to be any other machine just by feeding it the right program. That is the absolute DNA of all modern software. Then the 1940s hit, and we swapped gears for electricity, creating giant electric brains like ENIAC. And finally, the micro-revolution. The transistor and the microchip let us shrink those room-sized brains down to the tip of your finger. But you know, it was that final leap, making things small, really small, that turned out to be the most revolutionary of them all. It wasn't just about making computers smaller. It was about making them personal. It was about making them, well, ours. I mean, to really get a sense of this, just check this out. In 1946, the ENIAC computer took up an entire room. It was massive. Just 25 years later, in 1971, the first microprocessor crammed all that power onto a chip the size of your fingernail. That is the leap that took the computer from a tool for governments to a tool that's in your pocket. Which brings us to the biggest and maybe the most important question of all. Why? Why did we do all this? Why go on this centuries-long quest to build this machine? The answer, I think, gets right to the heart of what makes us human. Look, our minds are brilliant. They're creative, they're intuitive, but let's be honest, they have some limits. We're forgetful. A computer's memory? It can be absolutely perfect. We're pretty slow at complicated math. A computer is unbelievably fast. Our brains get tired. A computer is tireless. So you see, we didn't build this machine to be like an artificial muscle, like a crane to lift heavy things. No, we built it to be an artificial extension of our brains. We built a machine specifically to overcome our own built-in cognitive limits. So here's the crucial idea. The computer isn't just a tool like a hammer. It is an intelligence amplifier. Its entire reason for being is to take our own native intelligence and crank it up, allowing us to solve problems and create things we could never, ever manage on our own.
All right, so let's just quickly recap the whole journey we've been on. First, at its very core, a computer is just a beautifully simple machine running on that input, process, output loop. Second, its history was driven by four huge ideas: having programs, being universal, using electricity, and then making it tiny. And third, and this is the big one, its ultimate goal isn't to replace us, but to amplify us.
And that leaves us with one final, kind of mind-bending question to chew on. For centuries, we've been building these machines to augment our own minds. We're outsourcing our memory, our calculations, our logic. So, if our tools are constantly changing to amplify our minds, what does that mean for us? What are we ourselves becoming?